Words do not work with Moscow. You know what he's talking about there as well? Donald Trump's all caps social media post. I'm really mad at you, Vladimir Putin, I'm mad at you. Now, when you have people like Kellogg, one of Donald Trump's liaisons, who was at first the liaison to Russia and Ukraine, now just Chancellor Friedrich Merz, plans to make his army the strongest conventional army in Europe. Other EU countries also have ambitious plans for their armed forces.
Why are world leaders openly mocking Trump and taking massive steps to defend themselves? From the US? From France calling him out to Germany building its strongest army yet, something big is shifting in Europe. Could this be the beginning of a global breakup with America? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Why does it feel like Germany and Canada are suddenly gearing up for a defense movie where the United States doesn't even get a cameo? Well, when Trump's at the wheel, it's not just the brakes people are questioning. It's whether they need a driver at all. For years, NATO allies leaned on America to take the lead in global security. Trump, with his pay-up-or-get-out approach to NATO, threw a wrench in that trust. Sure, the U.S. has held the crown for global military spending, but money without leadership?
Minister Carney of Canada says he wants Canada to join the major European defense plan, looking away from the United States towards Europe. French President Emmanuel Macron says the following, quote, "I spoke 48 hours ago with President Trump, who expressed his impatience. The question now is, what do we do about it?" He goes on to say, even the so-called memorandum, which they promised and allegedly spent over a week preparing, no one has seen it yet. It has not been shared with Ukraine. It has not been shared with our partners.
That's like handing a grenade to someone who's already dropped the pin. Let's start with Germany, usually the careful one, the quiet kid in the NATO classroom. They're now gearing up to launch the European Union's strongest army by 2031. That's not just ambitious. For Germany, it's practically a personality change. They're spending like they've found a hole in their pocket, committing over $100 billion to defense. This isn't the Germany that neatly stuck to post-Wabewit constraints. It's the we don't need Uncle Sam Germany. And why is this happening? Experts point out Trump's unpredictable foreign policy made allies wonder if calling Washington in a crisis was as reliable as asking your ex for a ride to the airport. Would they show up or just leave you hanging? And then there's Canada, America's polite upstairs neighbor, who's usually caught between sorry and a handshake. But lately, Canada's trying to shake things up. Quietly, of course. According to insiders, they're checking out European defense programs like a shopper eyeing a new car while their old one's engine sputters. Rumors even swirl about potential projects with Norway and Germany if your closest ally, even the maple syrup-loving one, is starting to hedge their bets. That says a lot about where trust levels stand. Don't let Justin Trudeau's smile fool you. When Canada sidesteps America, there's frustration underneath that perfect hair. Still, this isn't just about emotions or hurt feelings. It's strategy. Michael Clark, a defense policy expert, pointed out that NATO's European side feels like Trump turned it into a bargain basement affair. Pay up or you're on your own. Canada joining Europe's defense system would be a huge shift in how alliances operate, as it suggests NATO members might not see the US as the ultimate glue anymore. That's a serious crack in the foundation. On top of that, let's talk about what Germany's been buying recently. High-tech tanks, advanced drones, and aircraft that can whisper past Russian radars without a peep. They're upgrading so thoroughly it might make Trump jealous enough to turn his famous orange into a shade of green. But this is more than just shiny new toys. Germany's message is clear. We'll handle this ourselves, thanks. And this isn't just Germany and Canada playing an awkward international breakup. France's Emmanuel Macron has been making calls for a stronger European sovereignty for years now, and he's not exactly sending Trump a compliment sandwich. After all, Macron's the same leader who, in 2019, called NATO brain dead in part because of reliance on the US. Trump didn't exactly handle that critique with grace. He responded with a dismissive rant, criticizing Macron's leadership. Now, with Germany and even Canada taking action that aligns more with Macron's vision, his earlier frustrations seem, well, validated. It's not just whispers at European summits or polite statements during press conferences either. Canada recently withheld full participation in a NATO air defense project, leading analysts to speculate they're saving their chips for a European program instead. And Germany, they've been pushing hard for joint defense manufacturing agreements that bypass traditional American partnerships. These moves aren't minor, they're signals. Allies moving their checkers carefully while saying, "We're not waiting for you to figure it out, US." There's a lot to unpack here, but the central theme keeps coming back. Trump-era policies weren't just tough love, they came off more like thumbing your nose at the people you're supposed to rely on in a fight. NATO allies are loyal, but they're not going to play the waiting game forever. Germany, Canada, and other nations aren't just preparing for potential battles, they're preparing to go it alone. Now, if Germany and Canada acting like they've been burned wasn't spicy enough, let's toss in Macron, who's about to give Trump's foreign policy a verbal uppercut. From Russia to Ukraine, Macron is done mincing words. Stay tuned. This gets even messier. Donald Trump's foreign policy has been getting side-eye from leaders across the globe. But when Emmanuel Macron and Volodymyr Zelensky weigh in, it's not just side-eye, it's a full-on glare. Macron, who has never been shy about shading Trump, has once again come out swinging, this time with sharp words about Trump's approach to Russia. And Zelensky, well, he's got receipts, and he's not afraid to show the world just how many promises remain unchecked on Trump's bizarre to-do list. Let's start with Macron. In a moment of frustration that could rival a French waiter dealing with a tourist who butchers croissant, Macron challenged Trump directly, questioning his lack of action against Vladimir Putin. Macron stated, "I spoke 48 hours ago with President Trump, who expressed his impatience. The question now is, what do we do about it? What are you going to do about it? We are ready in France. We are ready in Europe." You can almost hear the sarcasm dripping off those words. This wasn't just a polite critique, it was a masterclass in telling someone they've dropped the ball without outright saying it. Macron's point was loud and clear. Europe isn't going to wait for Trump to decide whether he's serious about countering Putin or just twiddling his thumbs between rounds of golf. To make matters more pointed, let's talk about what Macron means when he says Europe is ready. France, along with several EU nations, has been quietly preparing itself to take on bigger military responsibilities, independent of the United States. It's like the rest of the continent watched Trump's leadership for a few years and decided they'd better start making their own backup plans. Macron's comments hinted at a deeper frustration, not just with Trump as a person, but with America's entire shift away from reliable foreign policy under his administration. European leaders are done waiting on vague promises and unpredictable tweets. They want action, something Trump has spectacularly failed to deliver. And speaking of failures, Zelensky is here to highlight one big one. If Macron delivered his critique like a seasoned diplomat, Zelensky's approach was more like a fed-up teacher calling out a student who didn't bother to do their homework. Zelensky has made no secret of his disappointment at Trump's handling of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, openly criticizing Trump's empty words and overall lack of follow-through. According to Zelensky, and this is a big one, the US under Trump promised Ukraine a memorandum, one so important it could have been a game changer. But surprise, that memorandum never arrived. It was reportedly ready for over a week, but neither Ukraine nor its partners, such as Turkey, ever got a copy. If you're wondering how that makes Trump look on the global stage, I'll save you the suspense. Like a guy who ghosted a major international responsibility. Zelensky didn't stop there. He also painted a clear picture of what Russia's strategy has been, dragging out the war, sowing chaos, and deceiving anyone still trying to negotiate through words and not action. Trump's response to all this? Bold claims about wrapping it all up, neatly tied with a bow, in 2 weeks. That's right, folks. Trump has repeatedly said he could end the Ukraine war in 2 weeks, a statement that's been met with the same reaction most people have to his promises. Skepticism mixed with a hint of eye roll. Experts have latched onto these repeated claims, pointing out how unrealistic they are, especially given the ongoing aggression from Moscow. Yet Trump continues floating this two-week magic solution, as if conflict resolution is something he can schedule in between campaign rallies and cheeseburger breaks. The stark contrast between Trump's lofty promises and the growing distrust among global leaders, particularly Macron and Zelensky, paints a bleak picture of where U.S. leadership stands. Leaders like Macron are tired of waiting for Trump to step up, while Zelensky is tired of consuming words that have no substance behind them. Together, their sharp remarks show just how isolated Trump is becoming. It's not just about a lack of personal popularity among world leaders. It's about real-world stakes, wars, alliances, and an entire framework of global defense that increasingly seems ready to function without the United States at the center. But here's the thing. Macron and Zelensky calling him out isn't just revealing, it's embarrassing. When European leaders and war-torn nations like Ukraine feel like they can't rely on the US, that's a serious dent in America's reputation. Trump might brag about America first, but when it comes to international partnerships, it feels more like America maybe. And don't think the criticism stops here. Sure, Europe and Ukraine are frustrated, but what happens when Trump's own team starts airing their doubts? Because spoiler alert, that's coming up next. Stick around, it only gets messier. As Europe builds its defenses and Canada cozies up to European security programs, it's clear the world isn't waiting on Trump's America. Germany wants the EU's strongest army, Canada is eyeing independence, and Macron is straight up challenging Trump's reliability. This isn't just a breakup, it's a messy one. The rise of a more self-reliant Europe signals a shift in global power dynamics that could leave the US sidelined. Is Trump's America losing its grip, or is this just a temporary stumble? Let us know your thoughts below. One thing's for sure, global leadership is evolving faster than ever. What comes next?